Okay, hi class. What I'd like to do is just record my feedback for you so you guys can actually get an idea as to how to move forward for your last round for your projects. So here we have a bunch of different projects from different students in our same class. So what I'm going to do is pretty much go per group because it is a large class, around 25 of you. So I'm going to take this by groups. So group one, we will have Samuel, Dyani, Laura, and Dulce, and then kind of go from there. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and provide some feedback for, first of all, Samuel. So Samuel, I think this is a good looking recipe so far in terms of the denotative and connotative versions. Just make sure in certain areas here that you are actually putting things upright so it's not upside down. And I usually choose the type of version that I think works best. So if you design something that is a little bit newer and I picked this one out, it mostly means that I actually favored this version right here. So I pretty much like how you've placed the type in this illustrative feel. Just make sure that things are reading a little bit more upright. All right, so what I would do is just rotate what looks like garnish here. And I would just rotate the number 2 just to read correctly. Just a little bit more believability with how we read this, all right? And we still want to work on chocolate milkshake just so we can read it a little bit more easier. Maybe, sometimes using script with the type path tool is a little bit hard to read. See if you can do this with maybe a serif font, if that might work better, because sometimes the script and the movement of the type path might be a little bit too difficult, all right? And let's just make sure we know where we're reading first. So the direction of step 1 and then step 2. Because right here, my eye goes straight to this area here. So step 2, step 4. So let's kind of have that ease of how we read into things. So maybe have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 in a more believable direction, right? We don't want to obstruct how we read things, right? Kind of like what we have here with your denotative, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Even though this is a connotative, we still want to make sure that we read things in the way that we're used to, all right? I don't mind the the ingredients kind of going in this direction right here, but let's just make sure that the readability of those numbers have that counterclockwise kind of look and feel to them, all right? And then let's go to your denotative. I think your denotative is also pretty nicely chopped up and well put together. What I would just say is maybe I'm seeing a little bit of stretching of the type, and I would just advise against that. So make sure you're not stretching your type, all right? And just make sure that you have this a little bit more true to actual typeface is. And I would keep those paragraphs the same size. Right now, this paragraph or this line right here, gather the ingredients, is different size than the second and then the third and then the fourth. So let's just create some consistency for your body copy or the instructions, if you will. All right. And I think you're also missing a pull quote for both of them. So let's add a pull quote. All right. And let's just have what looks like the title, so ingredients up here. And then maybe instructions for this section right here. And make sure you actually have different treatments for your type. So let's say you have one size for your instructions. Your ingredients can be maybe in an italic or a different size, but let's just kind of treat this a little bit differently than our body copy. All right, and I don't mind the title actually being chopped up like that. So just, make sure it has that sense of consistency, right? Maybe try a serif font here. That might work a little bit better. And see how that feels, all right? And maybe you might want to play around with the background. So maybe, think of chocolate milk, what color is it? And what kinds of color palettes are we associating chocolate milk with? So don't be afraid to experiment with color, all right? Let's move on to Dyani's work. So Dyani's doing Belizean Johnny Cakes favorite, or Belizean favorite Johnny Cakes. All right. So I had a little bit of difficulty reading this first. So if it's Belizean favorite, or is it Belizean Johnny Cakes? So I would just kind of organize this a little bit better, is to see how you want this to read. It looks like Belizean favorite. Belizean Johnny Cakes. So you might need to separate your pull quote, which I believe what this is right here, Belizean favorite, and treat it someplace else in your layout, right? So don't combine that with your title, okay? And just focus on the title differently than you would the pull quote. So Belizean Johnny Cakes, maybe just treat that on its own, all right? I like what you're doing here with the this type path right here, where you have things on a round or a curve, if you will. So keep to that. What I would say is maybe I would go with something a little bit less decorative for the ingredients, maybe just a simple serif font like what you have here, and not too many moves, if you will. So you already have the script that's going on a curved angle, and then you have your title treatment right here, and it looks like you also have your pull quote in another treatment. So try to simplify a little bit more and not do more than two or even one movement, like the directional type right here you have on the curve, and just the font choice right here. I would simplify some of those areas here, and maybe just not use too many decorative type for this whole layout, right? Maybe just simplify by using a serif font, right? And I would add a little bit more structure here. So what is ingredients here aligning to? So maybe align to the numbers, right? And then for this one right here, your denotative, what I would recommend is just creating a little bit more white space around. There's too much space, like little space for your type right here, so it's getting too close to the edge. And I think you can get away with making things smaller. So with directions, maybe combine a numbering system. So step 1, step 2, or 1, 2, 3, 4. So that way we have a little bit more direction and a little bit more simplification for our paragraph right here. And I would make this smaller, like just a smaller text size in general, all right? And that way that can add a little bit more breathing room, negative space right here for the rest of your information. Again, I'm a little confused, similar to how you treat your pull quote here. Maybe treat it a little bit differently. So if it's Belizean favorite, maybe this can be on its own on this side right here. But Belizean Johnny Cakes looks like it's a title treatment. So maybe separate your pull quote and title on its own. Okay. And let's make sure we align things in a certain way. So if we're aligning Johnny to the numbering system here for ingredients, let's bring ingredients to the left so that aligns nicely here. And maybe there is a strong alignment here that create for the whole recipe, right? So let's think about that for your denotative. Let's move along to Laura's work. So Laura's doing a strawberry mojito. So we have the denotative and the connotative right here. At least that's what it looks like on my end. I'm gathering that because this is an illustrative approach, this is the connotative. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I am going to treat it as your connotative and this your denotative. All right, so I think this looks nice overall. The only thing I would just say is, I'm struggling a bit with the readability here. The text gets a little too small that it becomes an illustration on its own, and I can't really make out any reading of any sort. So you might have pushed the illustration part a little too far, but I actually like how you have started to make an overall image. So it looks like a glass right here with a straw. And here you can still see and read the type, so that's nice. And then you've got like areas over here where it says crushed ice, step 1, step 2. I really would like to read this a little bit more clearly. And if there's a way, just maybe not to use that many strawberries and maybe simplify so it looks like you've got ice cubes here that say quarter strawberries, just make it a little bit more readable, because I really would like to read this. Here I can read those what looks like wave-like areas of water and your juice, but you just make it a little bit more readable. All right. In general, I'd like to see a little bit more space in this area. It's getting a little too close to the edge. So that would be my feedback for you. I like how you divide this up into step 1 and step 2 for your instructions. And I like how you've also just have a little bit more structure to this area of your layout, but try to see if you can align things a little bit better, like this pull quote here, if it aligns to this paragraph here, or is it live some other place on your layout, right? So that would be my feedback for this area right here for the connotative. I think the denotative is working out nicely. This kind of reminds me of a magazine layout, if you will. The only thing here is I'm seeing that this area seems very different than this area, and I'm wondering if there's a way to combine these two. So let's just kind of take a look and see. It looks like here you've repeated instructions, so instructions here and instructions here, and then the ingredients. So I'm kind of confused. Is this supposed to be, you know, 2 types of instructions? I'm a little confused here. Or is this your connotative and this your denotative? Please just kind of simplify this a little bit better for my understanding. But if you want to go in that direction where, you know, this would be your denotative, I think this looks nice as it is. Maybe just align things in a certain way here, so you have this very strong vertical line from mojito all the way down to the paragraph of the instructions. Kind of like what you have also with the ingredients, so maybe just don't center the text here, just align everything to the left. All right, this looks very nice. I like how things are kind of waving in and out on nice curves. Just make sure it's a little bit more readable, not too small. That way we can read the text a little bit nicely. And I would just be a little bit careful about opening up your text, so have the kerning a little bit more open. All right, and if you're saying step 1, step 2, maybe bold some of those areas in. All right. But overall, I think this looks nice, whichever direction you're choosing to go in. But I'm assuming that this is a different treatment than this right here. This looks like denotative and connotative to me here. So, you know, let's just establish that a little bit more clearly for your next round. Okay, Dulce, I really like what I'm seeing here. You created a few, I would say, revisions, and what I want to tell you is that you want to make sure that you work on the same layout for each week. All right, so you're pretty much taking one layout and you're revising this according to the instructions of the assignment, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and critique your layout here. This is your connotative and this would be your denotative, right? Denotative. So what I like about this, and I chose to put these two together because I think they work best nicely like this, based on the types of layouts you've been putting into your blackboard, right? So I like how you've done this effect, the michelada, the perfect recipe. What I would recommend is not go overboard with all the other areas of your type because it gets a little bit too difficult to read. What I would say is maybe do this for the title treatment right here, and your ingredients and instructions, keep the text simple like this right here. And that's perfectly okay to bring in some denotative into your connotative, so that way we can read. You have enough connotative right here that we can easily read this as a connotative layout. And just make sure you have a little bit more space around, okay? Excuse me. I think this looks nice in terms of how much white space you have. I'm not so sure if this is the right font to use for this layout. I might rethink this and maybe use a little bit more of a typical sans serif font. All right. And then I would say maybe bold certain areas like the numbers. But also see, like, you know, is this aligning with something, the top or the bottom, or are we just going to keep this in the middle? I like how this layout looks in terms of negative space, if you will. And I'm wondering where your pull quote is, so that way maybe we can add that somewhere, maybe on the side, kind of like what you have with ingredients here. So maybe add that also into your connotative version. Hopefully this helps with giving you some sort of direction, but I think this is working out nicely, and I really, really would like to see, some of those areas right here with the ingredients and the instructions just simplified more, like this paragraph treatment over here. All right.